Now we're going to create the master rod. First, we're going to enter Sketcher in the XY plane and create 2 holes with a radius of 13 millimeters. We're going to copy the top hole and paste it and make it symmetrical about the vertical axis by selecting both circles first, and then the vertical axis, and then selecting symmetry in the constraints tab. And now we're going to do the exact same thing with the bottom circle and make it symmetrical. Now we're going to add some constraints. The bottom circle should be, the right bottom circle should be 26 millimeters away from the vertical axis. And the top circles should have a horizontal distance of 17 millimeters from the bottom circles. And they should also have a vertical distance of 55 millimeters. Now we're going to use a 2-point circle to create arcs with a radius of 72. When you select your 2 points, make sure you're selecting them on the smaller circles already made, so that when we finally exit Sketcher, we'll have a closed sketch. Now we're going to select each arc and the circle that it touches and make them tangent to each other. This will give us the correct shape that we need. And now we're going to make one more constraint. The bottom circles should be 39 millimeters away from the horizontal axis. We're going to create a single circle that's along the vertical axis that has a radius of 35 millimeters. And that should be 250 millimeters away from the axis. Next, we're going to make 2 bigger circles with a radius of 72. We're just going to make one and then copy and paste it, and then make them symmetrical about the vertical axis, just like the bottom circles. Select both of them first, and then the vertical axis, and then click symmetrical under your constraints. The 2 circles should be separated by a distance of 26 millimeters. Now we're going to connect the big circles to the bottom small circles by selecting the left big circle and the top left bottom circle and making them. Next, we're going to draw lines from the top circle to the middle big circles. And when we connect it to the big circles, we're going to make sure it's tangent. We're going to do 2 of them to each circle, 1 of them to each circle, and make them symmetrical about the vertical axis as well. And now the top of the lines, the very end points at the top, should be 18 millimeters apart. Now we're going to use the trim tool to get rid of all the excess stuff, all the excess lines like the bottom of the circle and like the outside of the bigger circles, and the inside stuff that we don't need as shown. Now we're going to exit Sketcher. And now pat it to 35 millimeters. Now we're going to select the top surface and make holes, like the 4 holes that we need on the outside. So enter Sketcher and select the outside curve and the point and make them concentric to each other. The hole should be up to last and 10 millimeters. Repeat this for the next 3 holes, all around the outside. Concentric, up to last, 10 millimeters. And now we're going to create the big hole in the middle, the same way. But now we're going to make a construction circle that is concentric with the smaller top circle and draw an axis through it, or a construction line. And we're going to make our point for our hole coincident with the construction line. And it should be 250 millimeters away from the middle of the top circle, I'm sorry. Now exit Sketcher and make the radius 52 millimeters. I'm sorry, the diameter 52 millimeters. And now we're going to make another hole in the very top, so go into Sketcher and make the point concentric with the outside of the circle. Click OK, exit, and this diameter should be 24 millimeters. Now we're going to go into Sketcher in the YZ plane, and we're going to make two rectangles constrained as shown. They should have the same width, and they should be 7 millimeters separated in the middle. The top of the top rectangle should be constrained to the top of the master rod. Coincident. We're going to project the middle hole and make them construction lines, and make the right side of the rectangles 5.5 millimeters away from the left side of the construction line. And now the top of the rectangle is going to be coincident to the top of the master rod. And we're going to move it down so we can see it a little better. Now the bottom of the bottom rectangle is going to be coincident with the bottom of the master rod as well. We want to make this a length just long enough so it gets around and cuts out everything we need, so 55 millimeters will be alright. We're going to use the groove tool and groove it 160 degrees in both directions about the axis of the middle big hole. And select OK, and there you go. Now we're going to go into Sketcher in this small rectangle that was just created. We're going to create a rectangle and constrain the top, left side, and bottom to the rectangle that we just made. We're going to make our length a little longer than what the master rod is, so that, again, when we groove it, it'll get everything that we need it to. So 250 millimeters is good enough. Exit Sketcher and use the groove command. And 40 degrees will be okay. And the axis is about the big circle again. And click reverse direction if it's not in the proper direction, and then click OK. And there you go. Now enter Sketcher on the top of the surface, and we're going to create an elongated hole. The ends of the hole should be 150 millimeters apart with a radius of 5 millimeters. Now we're going to click and set it. We're going to create a construction hole again that is coincident or concentric with the top small hole. And the center of this circle should be 30 millimeters away from the center of the top of the elongated hole. And now we're fully constrained, so we're going to exit Sketcher and pad it to a depth of 18.5 millimeters. Now we're going to enter Sketcher in the YZ plane, and we're going to create sort of like a rectangle, but with the bottom left-hand corner as an arc. So we're going to choose the 2-point arc tool and select our two end lines and make our radius to be 78 millimeters. And then make the arc we just made and the bottom line tangent to each other. Now the top left-hand corner of our sketch should be coincident with the point as shown. And then our sketch should be 12 millimeters deep, 12 meters down. And now we're going to project the end of the master rod forward and make it construction lines. And then the right hand side of our sketch is going to be 35 millimeters away from the right hand side of the master rod. And now we're fully constrained, so exit Sketcher, and we're going to use the groove command to groove this. 40 degrees will be good enough in both directions about the axis of the small circle. So there you go. Now what's left to do is create the other side. So we're going to use the mirror command and select the bottom face of what we have and select OK, and there's your master rod.